way of coming back through the atmosphere. Then it did some maneuvering and it landed, it touched down on the landing spot. It's amazing. So here's the launch. There's it's during its belly flop. Unfortunately, about a millisecond after it touched down, it exploded. But it did everything else perfectly. And which is just really amazing to have that kind of control. I would advise you to Google SN8 launch and watch some of the videos. That it's only about 7 or 8 minutes, I think. Watch some of the videos. It's just an amazing achievement from SpaceX. So I also sat in on an Artemis update. They started talking about the SLS, the Space Launch System. So this is the NASA part of it. So SpaceX has its Crew Dragons and its rockets. Boeing is also doing capsules and rockets. This is actually NASA's part of it. It's the core, which so the big center one has finally been tested. It's got a couple more tests. And the Orion capsule that's way up at the top there is complete and also being tested. And they did, you know, how we were talking about the treaties of space. There is a new Artemis Accord because this is an international compilation, lots of international partners. So they have done accords. And they actually did mention that outer space treaty that we had talked about last week. 18 astronauts have been chosen. There are 9 women and 9 men. Some have lots and lots of missions in Soyuz and Space Shuttle and up on the ISS. And there are a couple brand new astronauts in this. So somewhere in here will be the people who will be landing back on the moon, hopefully in 2024. So Artemis is a multi-stage project. I'm not sure if I talked to you about this before. So Artemis 1, they will send the capsule to the moon and orbit the moon, no people on board. Artemis 2, there will be people on board the capsule and they'll go around the moon, but they won't land and then they'll come back. Then there'll be a few missions of support missions, getting stuff up there to start building that gateway that I'll show you in a minute, and to get this human landing system, you know, up there. So the astronauts will go to the gateway, then they will transfer to the landing system and land on the moon. Then when they're finished, they'll come back up, get back on the gateway, and then back onto their original capsule and go back to Earth. And Artemis 3 finally will be a crewed mission to get to the lunar surface. And I think I have mentioned before that I think this is a really ambitious project to be occurring in just 4 more years, but they seem to be powering ahead. That Gateway project, it's similar to the International Space Station, except it will be orbiting the moon. They are on track for the power and propulsion element. And I think it's this part, the US Habitation Module, or it's called HALO, Habitat and Logistics Outpost. They are on target for a 2023 launch. Originally it was 2022, so they're already starting to push the limits there. And we can see it's a multiple space agency supplying lots of different modules that'll be gradually built up over the years. And right here, Canadarm, we are supplying the Canadarm3, and I suspect this will be sent up fairly soon after the first modules get up there, because it's going to be used to construct Gateway. It can inch along the station and grab things out of space, you know, the incoming modules, and place them where they should be. So I'm pretty sure they'll start, that will go up fairly soon. And that human landing system is being worked out right now. There are 3 companies vying for it right now. expecting preliminary designs next year, and then they'll choose, and that'll start being worked on. And Boeing, the Starliner, is expected to launch in March of next year to the space station. So SpaceX has already proven that it can get to the space station with its Crew Dragons, and now this will be the Boeing's attempt to get to the space station.
Colleen, this this base, it's like a space station around the moon, right?
Yep.
Have they already picked the crew?
So this is not going to be permanently manned or permanently crewed. It'll just, out of a whole year, there might be a total of a month of people in there. It's just going to be a stop for the capsules so they can go to the, get down to the landing site and then, or landing system, and then go down. And then once they come back up, they'll come back, but they'll keep on building it and adding, science will be done in it and things like that. It's going to be a lot of automation.
So it's like it's a stopover. It's like a layover before you go
Yeah,
to the moon. Like you got to stop there before you go down, and you stop there on your way out.
exactly. Yeah, because you're not going to take the capsule that gets you to the moon. You're not going to land that. It's going to be a separate landing system, much more compact to get to the moon.
Oh,
Yeah. Okay. Counter 3. And Virgin Galactic, I'm not sure if you heard of this. This is by, oh, I've forgotten his name.
Richard Branson.
Branson, that's right. Yes, yes, yes. So he's been working on a suborbital spacecraft for tourism, mostly. And it was going to have a test flight on December 12th, but it failed also. So it's the way they do it. They have this big plane here with 2 sections that take the rocket part up. It goes to, okay, so this is called Spaceship 2, and the plane part is called White Knight 2. It takes, goes up to about 15 kilometers, then drops this off. This fires its rocket engines and then continues to about 83 kilometers. And it'll be for tourism and some suborbital launches of space science missions. So it went up there, the rocket dropped, but the rocket didn't fire. So it glided back down. So they have a little bit more to work on that. But it was the first flight from their new spaceport, which is in New Mexico.
Oh.
This completely self-contained. It has all the, it would be like arriving at the airport. You'd come here, you go in here, the planes taxi out and everything. It's really cool. I think I haven't, yeah, so there's the outside picture. Really a cool building, and there's been several documentaries almost on how they built it and how all the problems they had to overcome, but it's not quite ready to go yet. Soon. And it's only 200,000 American to book a flight on it. You get, I think, 8 minutes of free floating, but lots of people have signed up. So we were talking about constellations, and I mentioned the dark nebula that some cultures look at. They don't just look at the stars. So these dark nebula are huge clouds of hydrogen and helium and dust. And in the Northern Hemisphere, most cultures never paid much attention to them. But in the Southern Hemisphere, the indigenous people down there actually paid a lot of attention to them. The Burong, they are from Southern Australia, and they incorporate these into their star lore. So here we have 2 views of the Milky Way from Australia. And that, when I was showing you Jupiter and Saturn, I was using a program called Stellarium, and this is where I got this too. You can set any location on the Earth and have a look at the night sky. So we have 2 dark areas here running. They may not show very well running through, but the Burong used, this one was a man-eating emu, And this was Mindy, the giant snake, who has both good and evil qualities. So lots of dark nebula incorporated into their star lore. The people, there's also Hawaiian star lines. So the Polynesian navigated across open water by memorizing the positions of the stars as they rose and set. And each star line is a group of main stars that would be remembered by the navigators. The stars connect, kind of making constellations or asterisms, pictures in the sky. And the navigators would remember the rising and setting times of the stars. So the stars lines position over the nighttime would slowly change, each star becoming more prevalent at night. So this is the first one. I've got looking south and looking north from southern Australia. This first one is the canoe bailer, and we can see some familiar constellations, Orion. This is Auriga. And of course, looking the other way, and you see everything upside down in Australia also. So you have to sort of keep that in mind when you look at things too. And this fellow here, that's where Polaris is from. No, that's if you're looking north. You know, that doesn't make any sense. I must have had the position wrong. Because from southern Australia, you would not see Polaris. Oh no, sorry, we're up in Hawaii now, right? I forgot. Yeah, we're talking about Hawaiian style. So there's Polaris from Hawaii. The next one is from June 21st, so around the time of the summer solstice. This is called the bone-back lizard. And here we can see the Big Dipper. Now we never see the Big Dipper that high in the sky. Actually, if you look north from Hawaii, during certain times of the year, the Big Dipper has actually rotated underneath the horizon. I went to Hawaii in November of 2008, and it completely threw me off because the Big Dipper was not in the sky. It just completely ruined. I couldn't figure anything else out yet, because that's always the first thing I look for. So here we have the Chief's Fish Line. This is at the autumnal equinox, or September 21st. And if you watched the movie Moana, you might remember the demigod Maui and his fish hook. And we see, this is the fish hook here. We see it as Scorpius, the scorpion, the hook tail. But the Hawaiians think of it as Maui's fish hook. And the last one is the kite of the great chief Coelho. And here we see what we know as the Great Square of Pegasus, the flying horse. And another one that most people recognize is Cassiopeia in the sky. So different cultures, completely different backgrounds, completely different experiences, completely different constellations, asterisms, and stories in there. And before we move on any further and I get off of this, I would like to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. So that was quick and sweet. And if you have any questions, be happy to answer any now.
Okay. Cool. Can you get the lights, please? No. Yeah, a question. I just was recently they were talking about that space, just in some the science news, talking about space isn't as dark as they thought it was.
Yes, I didn't read that article, but I remember seeing it. There is space isn't, especially around in a solar system, it's got a lot of dust and stuff. So you do get reflections off the dust. One of it's called the zodiacal light. You can actually, at certain times of the year, you can see it's the dust in our solar system being reflected. But yeah, I remember the headline, but I didn't read that.
Mhm.
Sorry. And of course, it depends on what wavelength you're looking at too. Visually, our eyes don't pick up a lot of stuff, but if you're looking at infrared, so that picks up heat and that would pick up dust. So it depends on what wavelength you're looking at.
Cool. Any questions, gang? What do you got, Jake? What do you got?
Come on, Jake.
I've just been thinking about navigation by the stars. I like my family's all from Newfoundland and they're all fishermen and they at that point they would have used charts and compasses, but like at a specific point they still would have used a sextant. And I have a sextant at home and I've like using it is like a third of the work that needs to be done.
Yeah.
They have like using these methods that we have, you take your position, look at the angle, look at this thing, have all this uncertainties, then all this math, and then you find on the chart where you are. And that's just one area of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like
Yeah.
I being able to navigate by the stars by just memorizing where they are.
Or like the Polynesians.
Yeah, that's just a little bit out of my grasp. Like, oh, what?
Well, maybe they got lost sometimes, I guess. Eh?
It might have, yeah. There are no records of that. But if you are interested in the sky and you go out, now it can't happen in the Okanagan because we have continually cloudy skies. But if you go out every night and look at the stars, you can start seeing, you can easily find north and south, east and west. If you look at the Big Dipper, where from Kelowna and Vernon, it's a circumpolar, so it's up every night. You can start telling what time of the year and what time of the night it is by just continually observing. And that the stellar navigation, yeah, it's still taught in every Navy. People still have to know how to do it. And it is quite amazing that the time it takes. But yeah, now remember the Polynesians didn't have every star in the sky memorized. They had main ones that especially the navigators knew. So they were narrowing their scope.
Yeah, at some point I'd like to learn how to use my sextant. Although it is from like 1860s, so I don't know how if
It would depend on you would need new star charts. The sextant would probably work absolutely fine because it's only measuring the altitude of the stars at a certain time, but you would definitely need star charts.
Yes.
Up to date.
Cool. Any other questions?
I don't have a question, but I just find it amazing that I've never really thought about how different cultures and different places in the world, of course, are going to have different constellations and different names for them and different shapes and what they are. And I find that really interesting. I want to know more about all that stuff. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. In my newsletter next year, that's what I'm going to concentrate on, more indigenous constellations and stories behind them.
Cool. Jace, do you have a question?
Yes, it may seem to come out of left field, but it does have to do with space, kind of. So what do you think about the end of the universe? Like, which death would you find most likely, other than the heat death, since that one is commonly agreed to be the most likely one to happen, unless something changes?
From what we know right now, it's going to be the heat death. The universe will just keep on expanding and expanding. Stars will run out of their fuel and explode or just die into black dwarfs. Everything's just going to cool right down. Black holes will eventually evaporate. So it's just going to be totally empty.
And to follow up, I've seen some things online about theoretical ways for intelligent life forms to possibly escape that. What do you think of that?
Yeah, they start building Dyson spheres around stars, and they try to build something around black holes to extract energy out of the black hole evaporation. Certainly nothing that I see now would lead me to think that that's possible.
Okay.
You know, we're new at this.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was super cool looking at like the having something going around the moon that they need to kind of stop over at, right? Just
Yeah.
yeah, just you're thinking about going, if they're going to be having people down there, there needs to be a way to get down safely, right?
Yeah.
Just
Without-
yeah, and the Canada arm back at it.
Yep. Yeah. That contract was just signed about a month ago, so we're good to go.
So what is it about the Canada arm? Like, so Canada arm's been around. I remember learning about the Canada arm, I think in my high school days.
Yeah, the first one was on the shuttle.
Yeah, and then why is it the Canada arm, and why do we keep getting the contract for it? Is it a Canadian company, or it's the Canadian, or it's the Canadian?
It's a Canadian company that just got really good at doing robotic arm things, and just developed that. It probably came out of the AIAO technology that was shut down in the 60s. That's where and then all our people went down to the Mercury missions and helped those. Yeah, it's just this one company has gotten really good at doing that, and they've proven themselves, and NASA is always looking for good, reliable partners.
Cool. Well, what'd you think, bud? Oh,
I just thought it was kind of interesting because the way and how perspective can work was if you look at the moon, that the moon can look different if it's near the horizon compared to if it's up in the sky, that it looks small, but then as soon as it's odd that can happen. Yeah.
the illusion, right? And you got to put your finger out to.
Yeah, put your little finger out. It's really cool.
Newman?
Yeah, perspective, the whole perspective of the moon thing, and then also just the moon project with Canadarm3 and the station's going to be orbiting the moon and all that is just really interesting. All that, and then maybe even from there, that would be just taking going to Mars, possibly. Let's see.
Didn't catch the last part.
He says,
Staging ground for going to Mars.
Oh, yes. Well, it could very well be a stopover and then blast off there to Mars. You can get a lot more fuel in your tank. You don't have to get it out of Earth's atmosphere and out of Earth's gravity. It'd be way easier to head to Mars from the moon. I don't know if that's in their plans. That big Starship from SpaceX, it's actually the eventual plan for that is to send that up into Earth orbit, send another one up full of fuel, refuel the first one, and then head off to Mars. Because remember, 90% of a spaceship is fuel.
so there's really a lot going on in space right now.
There is. It's amazing. Yeah. The next, decade or two, your lifetime is going to be just amazing.
Wow. Any comments, guys? You got something? Okay, yeah, we can. Jared, what'd you think, bud? Conrad? Conrad. Yeah.
They're building a gateway, yeah. So they're not staying, or they would stay in that for long. Is that right?
Yeah, they're there for just a little bit, right? Yeah.
Yeah, they would go there more or less just to transfer to the landing system to go down.
Yeah.
But, experiments can be done there too.
Cool. Conrad, what about you with the back there hanging?
it was that all the planets were close.
Yeah. Oh, the convergence.
Oh, conjunction, yes.
Junction, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, it looks like it's going to be cloud. We're going to be sucked in with cloud until then, but
Yeah, amidst the meteor shower too.
yes, yes.
Casey, where are you?
I really enjoyed how much reptiles have influenced human race's, I guess, perspective of the solar system and others around it.
Yeah, how reptiles have been used in like how it influenced people's perspective
Oh.
of things. He's the one, he missed the talk last week on Lacerda. Was that last week you talked about? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
What about you, Dill? You got something?
Sky's filled with a whole bunch of stuff that we see in our neighborhood, in our environment.
Yeah. And Dill says the convergence as well.
Conjunction.
Conjunction. Ah. Damn, I'll get that right.
Okay.
All
It's a whole new language.
Well, thank you very much, Colleen. That was awesome.
You are very welcome. I guess we're done now till the new year.
We're done till the new year, so have a Merry Christmas, and yeah, take care of yourself.
And I wish the same to you all.
Mask up, wash your hands.
You bet.
Yeah.
The vaccine is started now.
Yeah.
That's amazing also.
Yeah, exciting.
Yes, yes.
All right, guys, say goodbye. Bye, guys. Say thank you.
Merry Christmas.